Hey everyone, Joshua Kirk here with you once again. Now it's time for episode 143 of Album of the Day. Excuse me. In which, today's artist for this review is an Omaha, Nebraska-based singer-songwriter, and multi-instrumentalist who's pretty much, best known for his very heartbreaking lyrics, very kind of raw, pained, and emotional vocal delivery, and known for, and his music has always been known to have some very dense and known to have some very dense and very lavish instrumentation too. Best known, excuse me, I'm talking about the singer-songwriter known as Conor Oberst. And all of you best know him for his bright eye. Best know him as the Bright Eyes guy. Bright Eyes was kind of like, his pseudonym, Bright Eyes was like, kind of like, a pseudonym that, he's known for making music under, under that, even though I know it's technically kind of a band, because, Mike Mogus is also in Bright Eyes too, but, lately he's been given the whole Bright Eyes thing a rest, as he's been doing many other side projects and solo work and stuff like that. And I'm here to talk about his most recent solo album, which came out on October 14th, 2016, which was a pretty fruitful day for album releases in that month, I will admit. And the album is called Ruminations. And as you can see, this is the CD copy of the album, which I have right here. Of course, it's like Conor Oberst on the cover playing the piano and the harmonica, and I'll tell you why he's doing that in a minute. And then there's 10 songs on this record, and it's about 39 minutes long, and it's on this label called None Such Records. Records known for releasing the likes of like Woco and the Black Keys and stuff like that. And stuff like that. And what's really interesting is that on the back cover of the album, there's actually a really interesting written piece written by Simone Felice in Powellville, New York, in April 2016, sort of talking about how he ended up making this record and recording another album and how it kind of resonated with him and stuff like that. Real cool. Anyway, there's a little insert here which has the lyrics in there. Photo of Conor at the piano, of course. And then, of course, there's the liner notes and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the CD packaging for the new Conor Oberst album, Ruminations. Now, just like, most people, I really loved Conor's older records under the Bright Eyes name. Just heartbreaking, just very gut-wrenching poetry, the lyrics that were very poetic. He's known for being very depressing and very poetic in terms of his lyrics. And also, the instrumentations were very beautifully lavish and at points cinematic, especially if you look at 2002's Lifted, and just some kind of raw, emotionally pained and very like just kind of, sort of vocals, and occasionally you'll get like shots of like, blood curdling shouts, so it kind of makes sense that besides Bright Eyes, he's also been in a punk band called Des's Parasitos as well. But, once Casadega came around, things kind of started going downhill from there, where Conor's lyrics weren't as heartbreaking or as poetic as they used to be, and also featured some really kind of, and featured like some cringeworthy religious decoding references that just, references that were just a big no-no for me. And also kind of tame, watered down instrumentals, and the vocals just didn't really have as much sort of raw emotion to them. So yeah, I was kind of skeptical going into this new album over here. So I was kind of skeptical going into this new album over here. And actually, the first listen that I took of it, I had only listened to like a few songs off of it, and I did not like it at all. But then eventually, a few months pass, and then I hear some people that are like praising this album, saying it's some of Conor Oberst's best solo work to date, and I'm like, okay, maybe I'm nitpicking a little too much at this point. Let's give it another go. And I'm so glad that I did give it another go, because, in my opinion, call me crazy, but Ruminations is Conor Oberst's best batch of songs in years, pretty much. First of all, the concept behind this record I think is pretty cool. Apparently, in the midst of his recent tour with Des's Parasitos, Oberst apparently, got a cyst in his brain, so he got hospitalized in New York for a while, and it might seem like he may never make new music again after that, right? You would be wrong. Apparently, he did make it back to his home of Omaha, and, he didn't really expect to record anything or write any new songs. They just kind of came naturally, and he pretty much wrote and recorded the whole thing within, just 2 straight days, so it isn't, one of those projects that took, 3, 4, 5 years to put together, or anything like that. And also, this is Conor Oberst's most sparse and stripped down album in over a decade, because apparently he recorded all these songs on just guitar, piano, harmonica, and vocals. So that's literally all you're hearing on this record, and it's definitely some of his most raw sort of stuff to date. And he didn't really expect to release it. He initially thought of it as demos or something like that, but then he took it to None Such Records, and apparently their main man, David Byther, really liked the songs and suggested maybe it should be released as an album. So apparently they did, and here we are with Ruminations. I'm going to talk about this record track by track a little bit, because nearly every song on this record, has something about it that just makes it so, that just makes it really compelling, even though he, isn't working over those same, dense and detailed instrumentals than he was on previous records and something like that. And there's not a dud in sight on this record. So anyway, let's get into it, shall we? I love the opening track on this album, Tachycardia, which features a really gorgeous piano melody, one of the best piano melodies on the entire record. He definitely does a good job with. the melodies here, because they become instantly memorable pretty much. And the lyrics on this track, very, very dark, and it seems to be sort of, talking about death a little bit, with lyrics like, needs a cold draw to slow his tachycardia, which, in case you're wondering what that word means, tachycardia is like a fancy word for a heartbeat. And one of my favorite lines, probably my favorite line in the song actually, is is the line, would have to be the line, life's an odd job that she don't have the nerve to quit, as she talks about an employee at a cafe, spilling the coffee grounds. And she has just that thought that hits her like a cinder block pretty much. And yeah, that's some poeticism right there, Connor. They're also presented in a line, in a dark bar, the world just melts away. And then he comes in with just a really gorgeous harmonica solo. And you could say that he's using the harmonica just to fill in extra gaps in the middle that, personally, I think the harmonica just only adds to the beauty of this record, and it's used very purposefully in a really nice way, and he plays it so beautifully, which is pretty impressive, as I'm very sure this is his first album where he plays the harmonica. Following that is the song Barbary Coast, Later, which is another great track, this is the first track on the album to include a guitar, so it's like 50% guitar and 50% piano, and like about 90% of the album contains harmonica on it, too, which, isn't necessarily a bad thing, I don't think. I'm gonna have to read you some of the lyrics from this song. This song is just beautiful from, the guitar and the harmonica melodies, which sound very much inspired by Dylan. This album definitely sounds very much like it's obvious that he was inspired by Bob Dylan here a little bit. But I made it in the best ways possible. Simple. And he definitely sort of, and you can tell that he's pretty much, in a mood to drink and stuff like that, when he says, I don't want to feel stuck, baby, I just want to get drunk before noon. And he reflects on the world, the state of the world today, very poetically, on one of my favorite lines here. The modern world is a sight to see. It's a stimulant. It's pornography. It takes all my will not to turn it off. After that, you get probably my second favorite track on the record, which is Gossamer Thin. And this track is definitely, one of the is definitely one of the, one of the darkest songs on the album lyrically, because, he seems to sort of, reflects on, after his sickness, he kind of, was in a state where he doesn't want to get out of bed or eat or anything like that. He's just kind of, he's kind of having sort of suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. And he, and he tries to recall what the therapist said, which is ego and the essential self. You are who you are, and you are someone else. But, he's just he feels kind of worn, gossamer thin, a little bit, and, and also some pretty, heartbreaking lyrics are the lyrics about, she likes the new pope, she's not scared of hell, they meet once a week at a secret motel, she kisses his neck, she plays with his hair, her screams sound like pleasure, her moans like despair. So yeah, they kind of risk it all for love, pretty much. Then the very next song, and also this song, again, features a really nice piano melody on here too. Like he brings a lot of versatility to the record, and he really does, do so much. I like how he really does so much with just like 3 instruments on this record. The very next song, Counting Sheep, probably one of the darkest and one of the most sort of like, one of the most depressing songs about death that he's written in like years, pretty much. And he seems to be sort of directly referring to his sickness that he had and stuff like that. Yeah, a little bit on this song, and he's sort of, and he's sort of, and he definitely does bring up some lyrics that are just bound to send chills down your spine. Lyrics like, temperature's cool, blood pressure's fine, 121 over 75, over 75, scream as you want, no one can hear you. I would say he does deliver some very compelling songs on here, even on this song that I think is my least favorite here, Mema Borthwick, a sketch, which I do really like, a track where I do, really like the lyrics on this track, and, I do think, the instrumental over it is pretty decent, but I will admit that this song isn't nearly as compelling or as memorable as some of the other songs here, personally. The very next song, The Rain Follows the Plow, seems to be just this sort of like, just really kind of, to be kind of just this heart-tearing, like, sort of, story, kind of looking back at his tortured past, where he, like, broke all the rules in Catholic school, and it turned to a life of crime, including, like, stealing a motorbike, having casual sex, smoking cigarettes, and just throwing caution to the wind, and stuff like that. And the piano playing on this song is really nice, especially when he gets to that phenomenal solo in the middle, which is definitely one of my favorite moments of that song. And then just out of the blue, you get a harmonica, which, is a nice, pleasant kind of surprise there, which again, like I said, he doesn't just use it like as a crutch. He actually uses it with some purpose, and it actually only adds to the beauty of this record. So, like, impressive, because so it's impressive for someone who, doesn't really specialize in harmonica that much. I like how despite all the darkness of this record, he does leave a little room for some catchy cleverness on the song, A Little Uncanny. Probably the catchiest song that Conor has written in a while, pretty much. And it sounds actually almost inspired by, like, rock music, like maybe like Bob Dylan's Blonde on Blonde. Like, there's no evidence of electric guitars on the song, but rather he kind of he plays his guitar, he seems to play his acoustic guitar, like, harder and faster on the song, a lot like, rock music a little bit, and also features kind of the harmonica, has that kind of, wildness to it, and so it's a little raucous lyrically, but, it does, and while the lyrics aren't as, dark here as they are on other songs here, there's still definitely, there's still very introspective, but also kind of, clever at points too, like, when he talks about, about, like, Ronald, talking about how Ronald, the story about Ronald Reagan, like, pretty much got him, to, like, read some Russian authors through and through. And I like the part where he mentions some of those, when he mentions some of those, like, famous people that he misses. I especially relate to that line I miss poor Robin Williams, cause yeah, like you read my mind there, Connor. There, Connor. But it does get a little sad, towards the end. He says like, every morning's a desert, every night is a flood. They say a party can kill you. Well, sometimes I wish it would. Like, it's very poetic and definitely one of the more kind of sad lyrics here. Following that would have to be my favorite track on the record, which is the song "Next of Kin," which really beautiful piano ballad, featuring just featuring again some more lyrics that definitely are very emotional and very just kind of very just kind of like. Yeah. Which is pretty much what has drawn me to him in the first place. That unfortunately, so many of his records have kind of missed on, missed on in this last decade or so. On the song, he sort of talks about, someone whose wife has passed away, but like her bathrobe is, is still hangs on the bedroom door, and he buried her by the sycamores, or so he could keep her close, and that just made him a really depressed, depressed person and stuff like that. But then when Connor comes in from stuff sort of told from his point of view, he does come in with just some very, some lyrics that are bound to stick in your brain for a while. Get too drunk and you can't perform. Something dies when a star is born. I spread my anger like Agent Orange. I was indiscriminate. Which, is actually mentioned in the written piece by Simone Felice on the back cover, so it's apparently, maybe it's a lyric that he really related to as well. And I like how he mentions how I like how Connor mentions how he met Lou Reed and Patti Smith, but still that, didn't make him feel any different. And he sort of refers, and she sort of refers directly to, refers to, like, I like how in the final verse, he directly refers to himself, like, in the hospital, about to leave, and, when he was free to leave, he walked fast down the Bowery, and, and there were tears in his eyes, so he couldn't see, but he finally made it back home. And, like, just that closing part with, the really nice blending of the piano melody and the harmonica, it just sounds so darn gorgeous, and, it just, closes out the song perfectly. The chemistry that the piano and the harmonica, have at the end is just, one of the most incredible, like, sort of moments on the entire record, like, at the end of this song. Another one of my favorite tracks follows that, which is the song "You All Loved Him Once," which, it's, I think he seems to sort of, look at, Connor seems to kind of, look at, fame a little bit, or something like that. I don't know exactly who he's referring to, but I know he's sort of talking about a person who really had done so much, good for people, but, then eventually, people started to kind of, tense up towards him, and, eventually started to kind of, develop this kind of, like, sort of this envy and just sort of this kind of apathy for this person, pretty much, and, it's just really, so I'm not really sure exactly what it's about, but, but I do know that the song is, really just, one of the most beautifully written and performed songs on the entire record. And then it closes out with the piano ballad, Till St. Dymphna Kicks Us Out, which pretty much, after all these lyrics about death and suicide and drug use and drinking, he finally brings up how, he just, he seems to be surrounding himself with a few friends, with alcoholic beverages and stuff like that, trying to, about to kind of drink away his sorrows, pretty much, there's like kind of an old friend involved in this, and, they're, and he definitely, he definitely does bring some, some true, sadness to the song when he mentions, if you're gonna talk like that, at least buy another round, and we can keep drinking until St. Dymphna kicks us out. And this is one song that's a perfect example of Conor showing off versatility in his piano playing. There's a bit of a distinctive jazz flavor to the piano, so it sounds maybe a little inspired by jazz music a little bit, and it kind of, makes me feel as if maybe I'm listening to it in a bar room or something like that, because it, not just in its lyrics about drinking, but also its piano melody too. And some really gorgeous harmonica on the song too, and yeah, it just closes out the album on the best note. So yeah, not much more I can say about this record except, I love it. I really do. Really do. I thought it was refreshing to see him go back to basics and still sort of, go back to, his songwriting chops a little bit. So, every time I listen to it now, I kind of, so every time I listen to this album now, I'm just not really sure why I kind of initially kind of trashed this album at first. This album at first, pretty much. And I'm just hoping that Conor's next full-length album, in fact, he actually does have a new record which comes out on March 17th called Salutations, which I heard is a companion piece to this record, features all 10 songs from Ruminations, as well as 7 other songs, so it's full band versions of the Rumination songs. I'm just hoping that, his next record and his next few or so albums after that, have that same kind of, pretty much have, those same kind of things that pretty much, were so admirable about him, and about his music in the beginning, pretty much. And yeah, this is a pretty cool concept record, the title Ruminations makes sense, because these are kind of ruminations of, his past, and just some of his most heartbreaking, lyrics to date. And also, the production on this album is really well done. It's kind of lo-fi, but at the same time, has a certain kind of crispness that I think rivals even that of his older albums. As well as lyrics so heartbreaking that, the lyrics kind of rival his older stuff even a little bit in terms of how sad and dark they are. And yeah, a cool record here, Conor. So yeah, I'm going with an 8 out of 10 on this new Conor Oberst record, Ruminations, and I'll see you for episode 144.